Hi, everyone. Ken Kirschbaumer with SVG here for the new sponsor spotlight. Actually, a new old sponsor, an old new sponsor. I can't know which one. Alan Kyle, Ikegami VP and Director of Engineering. Ikegami obviously was previously with SVG. Welcome back, Alan. Great to have you guys back in the family. How are things with you?
Thank you. Things are going pretty well. So happy to be back and have this opportunity to discuss our latest cameras and monitors.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, personally, Ikegami I think it was Tom Calabro who taught me all about tube cameras versus chip cameras. So that was a big
Cool.
personal
Okay.
development I owe my knowledge to Ikegami from that standpoint. But let's go into some future tech. Obviously, the NAB show was just in the rearview mirror. 4K, while not a big broadcast theme as far as people broadcasting 4K, on the acquisition side, clearly, whether you're doing lenses or cameras and monitoring, 4K is the story when it comes to those that kind of equipment. So walk us through sort of the Ikegami philosophy around 4K for cameras and monitors as it stands right now.
Right. We have a pretty strong lineup of 4K cameras. Our top of the line camera is the UHK X750, which is a actual throwback to the old days with being a full hard-bodied camera. Um, we have always had a hard-body camera, I think, in our lineup since we introduced the original one back in the 1970s. Uh, Not terribly popular, but there are still pros and cons to the hard-body camera. There is, in the meantime, also the portable companion or portable version of it, the UHK X700, and we do have the sled or system expander, as we like to call it, to allow that to also integrate very nicely with telephoto lenses and the full sports kind of configuration. Most recently, at this past NAB, we introduced the UHK X600, nearly the same camera, but in this case, it is sold without 4K up front and can be added with a license key. With respect to the 4K imaging processing, it is built into the camera, so it's not a hardware upgrade for those features. It is a license key for the to activate basically the processing of the camera. Uh, and we did originally prove, I guess, the ability to have 4K processing at the camera head side with our box camera, the UHL 43. That was the first model that we had 4K processing in the camera head. Prior to that, our 8K and our first 4K camera had the processing at the CCU side because of the scale of the processing required for those data rates. But with the 43, we proved that we could do it with a couple of our new ASIC chips, and we could handle the power, cooling, and size requirement. And finally, we also have a two-piece box style camera or a separate optics camera, which is, I guess, primarily targeted at the helicopter or gyro application, but of course would be good for Skycam and other applications similar to that. And that is the UHL F4000. So that rounds out the 4K cameras. We do also have our Unicam HD cameras to satisfy other requirements. And then on the monitor side, it's basically two sizes for 4K. For rack mounting, we have the 17-inch HQLM monitor, and then we have a 31.5-inch with two different specifications. One is kind of a traditional monitor. It does do HDR, but within a limited brightness. And then we have the full HDR master monitor available in the 31.5 inch. And then beyond that, we do have kind of a monitor for every application and every budget within our product line.
Sure. Well, obviously, so you mentioned the hard cameras, the pros and the cons, and and the great thing about sports production, especially live sports production now, you're seeing the hard cameras still out there. You're seeing obviously the handhelds, and the box cameras are playing a bigger role too, thanks to all the fiber connectivity and what have you. But so walk through the pros of the hard cameras, because they are still beloved in the sports production world, that's for sure.
Right. So the hard camera, of course, is easier to stage, in my opinion. It's basically two pieces, the camera head and the lens. Viewfinder traditionally stays on. There is no sled to deal with, no very much reduced mechanical mounting. The way the lens mounts to the camera is the hanging style mount that we've used for decades now, and has proven to be easy and reliable. So I would say that staging is the main advantage. From the design standpoint, when you have more size, you can worry less about cooling, I guess, and put an emphasis on serviceability and ease of access to get to the inside of the camera when and if service is required. Of course, the opposite argument for the portable companion is that it has the flexibility. If you buy it with the system expander, then of course it's a dual role camera. It can be a full-fledged hard camera with its build-up, and it can also be an excellent portable camera. So then you get that kind of flexibility, giving up a little bit of service, maybe serviceability, but not really giving up any functionality. It's been, I think, a long time since we've actually given up functionality between the hard-body camera and portable companion.
Right, excellent. Now, it was interesting that you mentioned the 1080p and then up conversion to 4K without having to do any kind of hardware swap out. As I started the conversation, you mentioned a lot of the broadcasters from we hear is 1080p is the sweet spot from the production side, and then rely on the streaming services and what have you to up convert to 4K. So how important do you think that is to have that as an option for your potential customers and for your current customers?
Well, I think 1080p is an excellent format as well. It is a question of compatibility with the home market, I guess, and the streaming service, as you say, to deliver, a product that people can use and view. I know if it was a closed circuit system and we didn't have to worry about the home TV, we'd probably like to go 1080p HDR for a large number of applications. It's a good combination, but when you throw in the home consumer situation, it's not quite that simple. But we do think that it's a good starting point, and we do offer that now with the X600, that you can start there and add the 4K license when and if you desire it.
Right. And you can obviously unlicense it. So, because I think a lot of people right now, for a lot of shows, if I was going out there, they're 1080p, but then they say, hey, maybe we're going to want to use this for 4K and then do extraction and that kind of stuff, the zoom functionality within it. So I guess you can go back and forth with that as far as that licensing.
The licensing right now is a one-time license. Of course, you can change the format at all times.
Right.
Sure. In the wide variety of formats that the camera supports. But we are featuring a lifetime license at the moment. We may get into more elaborate schemes, but we like the simplicity, I guess, of the lifetime license at this point in time.
Well, I've heard the nightmare stories of people's licenses winding down in the middle of the show, which is never fun.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Yeah. So back to the NAB. What was some of the buzz that you heard as far as what your customers were asking about? What were they kind of discussing? Obviously, HDR is becoming more of a discussion point. So what were you kind of hearing consistently from the show floor?
It's the same as we've heard, I think, the last year or more. Considerable interest in IP. Quite a few customers are actually opting for it these days as far as new systems are concerned. And of course, HDR and high frame rate is, of course, also an important criteria. We had high frame rate with our High Motion 2 kind of specialty camera that we had, I'm going to say 5 years ago, but usually when I give one of these estimates, it turns out that it was longer than that. Time flies. But since then, we didn't really have a camera that would do both high speed and normal speed in a nice, flexible way. But that is a feature now that's supported by this lineup of the 750, 700, 600 models. 2, 3, and 4 times 1080p is just a license arrangement, basically built into the camera, and then 5, 6, 7, and 8 times HD or 2 times 4K is available, but does require a hardware upgrade in addition to the appropriate license.
Right. Awesome. Great. Well, thanks, Alan. Really appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to seeing you at our upcoming events. Stay well, and we'll see you soon. And everybody out there, for more content, please be sure to check out SVG Play.
Okay. Thank you very much.